Hey everybody, John Skiba here, and in this video I'm going to talk about how long a civil judgment is valid for, how long you have to worry about it. But if this is your first time here to the Consumer Warrior YouTube channel, please go ahead, click subscribe, check on that little bell, that way you'll be notified each and every week when I put out new videos that'll help you deal with your serious debt problem. All right, let's talk about civil judgments. So civil judgments tend to be things like credit card debt, medical bills. The debt collector files lawsuit against you or the original creditor, and they obtain a judgment. A lot of people come to me in my law practice here in the state of Arizona, and they ask me, how long is this judgment good for? There's some confusion because they'll ask me, well, isn't the statute of limitations expired on this judgment that was entered a long time ago? Now, there's a difference between the statute of limitations and then the laws that govern how long a judgment, a civil judgment, is actually valid or enforceable for. So the statute of limitations, that deals with the time period before the lawsuit is actually filed. So from the time that the credit card goes into default until they file the lawsuit, that's the time period that the statute of limitations is relevant for. So if you have a credit card, like in Arizona, the credit card statute of limitations is 6 years. If you have a credit card and you stop paying on it, the creditor then has 6 years to file the lawsuit, and if they don't, they're forever barred from doing it. Now that's different than what I'm talking about in this video. What I'm talking about in this video is when the creditor has filed a lawsuit, they have their judgment, the judge has signed off on it, so they actually have a judgment that they can try to enforce now. In most states, there's a time limit as far as how long that judgment is good for. If you're in the state of Arizona, where I live, and this is very state specific, I should point that out, so it's going to be different from state to state. But in the state of Arizona, civil judgments are good for 10 whole years, for a long time. And it gets worse. so hang tight for just a minute, because not only is it good for 10 years, they could renew it after 10 years for an additional 10 years. And the creditor can keep renewing that judgment every 10 years for the rest of your life. So it's very possible that a civil judgment that was entered a long time ago could be valid now and well into the future. Now, Arizona does have something that's a little bit tricky right now because the law changed a few years back. Because civil judgments in Arizona used to be good for 5 years, but they changed the law. So the way that the law is in the state of Arizona, and again, this is very specific to the state of Arizona, is judgments that were entered on or after August 3rd, 2013 are good for 10 years. Okay, that's the default rule. But the issue is, in my law practice, I have people come to me all the time with judgments from 05, 08. What about those? Well, the law says if your judgment was entered or signed by your judge before August 2nd of 2013, it was only good for 5 years unless they renewed it. They went to the court and did what they had to do to renew it no later than August 2nd of 2018. Is that clear as mud? That gets a little bit confusing. For most purposes, the judgments that you're going to be dealing with are going to be, it's 10 years. But if you do have an old judgment and you have a creditor who's contacting you and wanting to know, try to get payment from some judgment from 2008, that's one of the analysis you need to look at. You need to see, is the judgment still valid when it's that old? And again, if you're in the state of Arizona, what you're going to do, if the judgment was entered before August 2nd of 2013, you're going to look back and see, did they renew the judgment at any point? Now, renewal happens by them filing an affidavit with the courts, an affidavit of renewal. They'll often record it with the county recorder as well. So this is something, if you're fighting an old judgment and you need help with that, I do that in my law practice. We can go through the whole analysis and let you know whether the judgment's valid or whether it's something you need to worry about. So the bad news is, though, that typically civil judgments are good for 10 years in the state of Arizona. So if there's a judgment that just recently was entered against you, it's something you need to try to deal with it. You either need to look at like a bankruptcy option to get rid of that judgment or some type of debt settlement option to get rid of it. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with it for a very long time. And I can't tell you the horror stories I've seen where people just ignore judgments that are relatively small, and then they continue to accrue interest over the years. Many credit card judgments accrue interest at the contract rate of interest. When the account went into default, that's usually around 30%. So you'll see this $2,500 judgment turn into this $20,000 judgment, 10 years down the road. So something to be aware, understanding that distinction between statute of limitations and whether the judgment is still valid and enforceable. There is a distinction. If you're not in the state of Arizona, it's something you need to do some research, and I would recommend talking to an attorney in your specific state to determine if the judgment's valid. If you are here in Arizona and you need help with your case, or you're looking into bankruptcy or other debt elimination options, go ahead and look at the information below. My contact information is there. You can set up an appointment. I offer free consultations where we can determine the best way to help you with your serious debt problems. Thanks for watching today.